video is now in session, and today I want to talk about the Senate conviction trial that will be held against Donald Trump. So, as of today, January 13th, 2021, Donald Trump has been impeached for the second time, which is the first time a president has been impeached twice. This impeachment vote was much more bipartisan than the first impeachment vote, but if the definition of bipartisan means that only 10 people from the opposition party join you, then that's not really bipartisan. That said, it is the most bipartisan kind of support we've seen for impeachment since the Richard Nixon impeachment and the conviction trials that happened as a result. So today I'm going to talk about the Senate, because the impeachment will now head over to a conviction, and when Nancy Pelosi is ready, she will send the articles of impeachment over to the Senate, and Chuck Schumer will take over. Now, there's a chance that Pelosi could send this over right now and have Mitch McConnell take over, but that most likely will not happen, as Mitch McConnell is objecting to having the Senate come back to a session before Inauguration Day. So it will most likely be Chuck Schumer who will be the majority leader and have control over this process. Right now, I sorted the Senate map into Democrats and Republicans, but the titles are objection and affirmation, because these two tags will be used when trying to figure out if Donald Trump could get convicted and if he would be barred from running for a second term or as president or any other office, public office. So 50 Democrats right now, including John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. Pretty much every Democrat will stay on with their position in affirmation of convicting Donald Trump based on the last impeachment, but there are some people who may join on this fight. The first one, and the most notable one as of now, is Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is planning to object, or I guess not object, but affirm the conviction of Donald Trump, and he's also the most powerful Republican who isn't Donald Trump, and as a result, he will probably be able to persuade a lot of other people to join his fight, and a lot of other Republican senators would feel more free to share what they actually think about this conviction trial. So McConnell's just one person, but there are definitely more people that would do this. And then for some seats that I highlight will be known as like the senior senator seats, but I'm not going by that. It's just highlighting. So even though let's just say Mike Lee was the senior senator, technically by shading this, Mike Lee would be in affirmation of the conviction of Donald Trump. But what I really mean here is Mitt Romney and not Senator Lee. So I'll just note that whenever I shade a state. So Mitt Romney is definitely going to be on board with the conviction based on his first impeachment trial and his reactions to the Capitol storming. Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, and as well as Pat Toomey, all of these senators will definitely be in favor of impeachment and conviction. So those are 5 easy votes for Republicans right there. But what about the rest? How about the rest of the Senate? Well, that's going to be a little bit harder for Democrats, at least. If we look at the Trump scorecard, this is what the Trump scorecard looks like, and from there we can try to see which senators would go for Donald Trump, who's more moderate that would go, and who's a person that would go against Trump. So right now, based on polls, there is a 52.6% support for impeachment and conviction, while there's a 41.8% disagreement with impeachment. So it's pretty partisan, but this time there are some Republicans that are willing to go to the other side. So let's continue with this. Some other senators I believe that could join. Rand Paul would seem like a senator that could join on the fight with Mitch McConnell's help. Mike Lee is also another senator that could go for this issue, and that would put Democrats at 57. They need 67 in order to actually be able to convict Donald Trump. Some other senators that could happen. Ben Sass is definitely one of them that will almost certainly go for a conviction of Donald Trump if Mitch McConnell is on board with it. John Cornyn, he's more of a moderate kind of establishment Republican. I'd see him voting in favor of conviction, and that would put Democrats at 59. The rest, from here it starts to get even harder. Another option could be Todd Young of Indiana. He's not really a moderate, but he doesn't always side with Trump either. 82.2% of the time he sides with Trump. Other candidates, other senators that could do this, Pat Toomey, obviously. Lindsey Graham is another one that could partake in this. That said, it's very hard. It's kind of difficult for me to justify this using hard evidence, primarily because Lindsey Graham flip-flops all the time between moderate and right-wing in terms of his senator, in terms of his background. But we definitely know that the other seat that he shares with Tim Scott is definitely opposed to conviction. So that will not go in the affirmation column. What other senators could do this? Langford, there's a possibility that this could happen, but it's very unlikely based on him being in Oklahoma and him originally objecting to the presidential election results on January 6th. Now, Tom Cotton seems like another candidate that could affirm conviction, and that's primarily because of his tweets and his reactions to the Capitol storming on January 6th. That said, the reaction to January 6th is a lot of the times it will be different from whether they vote to convict or impeach Donald Trump. We saw this today in the House when they impeached him by a margin of 232 to 197. And we saw major leaders like Kevin McCarthy say or denounce the events that happened on the Capitol storming, but still objected to the impeachment of Donald Trump. Other candidates that could go in affirmation, because there needs to be 5 more Republican senators for this in order to even occur. Ron Johnson seems like a candidate, but he definitely would need some convincing. Rob Portman is also another candidate. Marsha Blackburn most likely would not do that. And then, yeah, from here on out, it gets harder and harder. Richard Burr, though, is someone that I could see affirming the conviction, primarily because he is retiring in 2022. He's not going to run for re-election, so he's more free to say whatever he thinks is right. Now, other senators, from here on out, it gets even harder. John Cornyn is again one. Kevin Cramer, Roger Marshall. Yeah, from here on out, it gets incredibly hard for Mitch McConnell or Chuck Schumer to convince the rest of the senators. But if I really had to go out of my way to try to figure out a Democratic strategy, then what I would be doing is I would be targeting Ron Johnson and Rob Portman, both of these senators who will be up for re-election in 2022. Wisconsin, the Ron Johnson's seat is competitive. Rob Portman's seat isn't as competitive, but it depends on what Democrats do and Mitch McConnell does to convince him or not. Marco Rubio is another candidate for this, and that would put Democrats at 66 seats. That said, I can't really see Marco Rubio going against Donald Trump, at least explicitly going against him. Now, if I was to find one more senator, that would be the hardest thing ever, to be honest. But if I really had to try and find one more senator, it would most likely be either James Langford or the senator from Kansas. So whichever one of the senators from Kansas. It could be either one. Actually, never mind. It would not be Roger Marshall. Roger Marshall was just elected, and he supported the objections to the election results. So it's definitely going to be the other senator, Jerry Moran, and that's 67 votes for the conviction of Donald Trump. And the fact that it took me 7 minutes to finalize this shows that even though Mitch McConnell is in support of this because he wants the Republican Party to move away from Trump, it's going to be incredibly hard for this to occur otherwise. Mitch McConnell would have to do a lot of convincing for this to occur, and one of the main things that Mitch McConnell has to convince other Republican senators is that their political future will not be in jeopardy if they vote in affirmation of the conviction. Because even though Donald Trump did lose the 2020 race, he was able to garner the second most amount of votes for a presidential candidate in history. Second that to the only candidate that has more than him was Joe Biden. So as a result, Donald Trump is still popular among his base, and that amount of popularity is enough for candidates or for people like Roger Marshall, or Rick Scott, or Tim Scott to affiliate themselves with the Trump brand. And that's enough for people like Kevin McCarthy to object to the impeachment of Donald Trump, which is why, again, it's going to be hard for Mitch McConnell to get 67 votes to convict Donald Trump. But it isn't impossible at this point. It's far-fetched, but it isn't impossible. And if they are able to do this, if they are able to convict Donald Trump, then the next vote that they would immediately do is a vote to prevent Donald Trump from running for public office again. And that would be a big that would in some ways be a win for both Republicans and Democrats, but this is something Democrats can easily achieve as they will have the majority in the Senate, and Mitch McConnell will definitely side with this vote of not letting Donald Trump run for a public office again. That gives Democrats a simple majority, and that means Donald Trump can no longer go into public office. And that's both a win for Democrats and Republicans, because for Democrats, it means they don't have to deal with this candidate who is able to drive up the Republican base like no other candidate. Because even though Donald Trump was able to drive up a lot of the Democratic base to go against him, he also drove up a lot of the Republican base to vote not only for him, but for candidates down ballot. We saw in the 2020 election, especially the House election, with Republicans gaining seats in the House. That hasn't happened in a while for a presidential election year. And for the Senate, they were able to block Democrats from being able to flip North Carolina, Tom Tillis' seat, and as well as Susan Collins' seat in Maine. But it's also a win for Republicans, because if Donald Trump tried to run as a Republican candidate in the 2024 elections, he would probably be able to win the Republican primary just because of how popular he is, but he would almost definitely lose in the general election. The other way is for Donald Trump to be running as a third-party candidate, and even then he would be a spoiler and Democrats would win. So in some ways, if the Democrats stop Donald Trump from running for public office again, it is also a win for Republicans. So that's ultimately all I have to say for this video about impeachment and conviction. This is a historical vote that happened today, January 13th, with Trump being impeached again. So that's the end of this video, and I'll see you in the next one.